conservation is a part of the efforts to collaborate and bridge the gaps within the higher education sector. By developing such connection, IUB aims to shape the future towards a sustainable, thriving Pakistan. I would like to start the session with our first keynote speaker, Dr. Arfan, Dr. Asfa Iram, Hazara University, Perspective of Renewable Energy Source for Sustainability in Pakistan, a systematic review. नहीं है कैंसर अच्छा next. Our next speaker is
Assalamu alaikum. As we all are gathered here regarding the climate change, so there are many consequences we are facing due to the climate change, including the squeezing of the seasons, especially the winter season, the hatching period of the eggs, of the insects and birds, etc. And also it affects the sowing and growing seasons. Beside all these effects, we have also get extreme weather in the consequence of the climate change. So this study is based on to estimate the recurrence intervals or the return levels of the extreme rainfalls occurred in different cities of Pakistan. So let's begin. So extreme weather events are most obvious in the sense that when we get more than the normal rain of any area or the region or the locality, it is said to be the extreme event. As we are talking about the rainfall, so it is extreme rainfall. So extreme rainfalls are also the important cause of the floods in Pakistan, especially the urban flooding is due to the extreme rainfalls in the urban areas like Karachi. We are facing urban floods for many years there. The study is an attempt, as I said, that to estimate the variability of the extreme rainfall in the form of recurrence intervals for different selected cities of Pakistan. So we have chosen many cities. For this presentation, I have chosen Lahore, Chitral, Nawab Shah, Chilas and Barkhan for their extreme rainfall events. These all cities are taken from different provinces, including Gilgit-Baltistan area also. And we use the 30 years daily data from 1986 to 2016 to study this project. I include this map if anybody is interested to know the locations of these cities which I have mentioned in this slide: Lahore, Chitral, Nawab Shah, Chilas and Barkhan. So it can easily be seen that these cities are belonging to the different provinces.
water is as important for us as blood for a body. And for water, we are dependent on monsoon cycle that is very sensitive to minor change in temperature. So that's why Pakistan is considered fifth most affected country by the climate change. In this regard, we have a very good presentation from Dr. Saima, Punjab University, who will elaborate assessment of climate change and its impact on water-based sector of Pakistan.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum everyone, dear students, my dear colleagues and respected delegates. Assalamu alaikum. I am Dr. Saima Siddiqui and I am here to talk something about the climatic change and its effect on water sector of Pakistan. Before I tell you something about climatic change, I would like to differentiate between weather and climate. So weather is basically the day-to-day condition of the atmospheric elements, or you can say for some days. But climate is basically the yearly average of all that data which is related to climatic factors, means precipitation, temperature, rainfall and snow and evapotranspiration. These are the factors, climatic factors. So climate is basically a statistical description in terms of the mean and variability of relevant quantities over a period ranging from months to thousands or millions of years. But usually for research purpose, as you have seen in earlier presentations, that at least 30 years of data jo hai, that is considered to do the climatic analysis, right? So characteristics of weather and climate, for both cases, the characteristics are the temperature, wind, cloud cover, precipitation, humidity, and the storm cycles, like cyclones or hurricanes. So IPCC is the Intergovernmental Panel on Climatic Change. Okay, sorry, which one? यहाँ तक ले हो आगे 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 ठीक है ठीक है So IPCC, Intergovernmental Panel on Climatic Change, is a major organization which is focusing on all the climatic parameters and their variations all over the globe. So they say that climate change is a statistically significant variation in either the mean state of the climate or in its variability. Persistent anthropogenic activities are mainly responsible for this climatic change. If we see the past years of data, like hundreds and 200 years of data from the sun heat radiation, so there is no significant variation and change in that radiation or heat that is coming from sun. So ultimately, 97% of the scientists, climatic scientists, they say that the cause of climatic change on the globe is due to the anthropogenic activities, जिसमें industrial activities हैं, built up areas increase है, agriculture activities हैं, ये सब. The same is the case with the United Nations Framework Convention on Climatic Change that state that climate change is a change of climate which is attributed directly or indirectly to the human activity that alters the composition of the global atmosphere and which is in addition to natural climate variability observed comparable to the given time periods. What are the indicators of climatic change? कैसे पता चलेगा climate change हो रहा है? So there are main 10 natural indicators from which you can assess that climate is changing, from which 7 are the showing increasing trend and 3 are showing the decreasing trend. So increasing trend, humidity increase हो रही है, air temperature increase हो रहा है, ocean temperature water का जो है वो increase हो रहा है, sea level rise हो रहा है, sea surface temperature increase हो रहा है, land surface temperature increase हो रहा है, और heat content on ocean surface that is increasing. So this increasing trend of these parameters is showing you that climate is changing. However, sea ice decreasing, glacier retreating or decreasing, glacial cover and snow cover reduction is the indicator of the climatic change. So by this way we know that climate is changing. Precipitation variable हो गई है. Some areas are facing more precipitation, some areas are facing less precipitation. Same is the case of receding of the glaciers. You can see in this graph that glaciers are receding and from 1700 से आप देखें तो 2000 तक का comparison, तो ये Atlantic glaciers, Alps glaciers, Southern Hemisphere के glaciers, Asia, North Western America, सब में एक retreating trend पाया जा रहा है और ये graph जो है it's going downward. अर्जेंटीना का ग्लेशियर का आप देखिए 1928 में अर्जेंटीना में ग्लेशियर कवर था, almost all area is covered with glacier. However, in 2004 you can say that the glacier is melted and the glacial lake is formed. Also the Austria case here in the left side you can see The glacier, valley glacier is present, but in the right side picture, there is only the glacial lake is present, or the streams are present. The glacier is melted. So this is the indication that climate is changing. Sea level rise is another indication of the climatic change. तो जो sea level water है उसके rise से, because of the ice is melting and the water is going in the oceans, so sea level is rising. This is one of the indication that climate is changing. Also, sea ice is declining. This is one of the indicator that climate is changing. There are some indirect indicators of climatic change. Direct indicators, natural indicators, right? Indirect indicators are the indicators like biological ecosystems are changed. Birds, butterflies, mammals and other biodiversity is moving from their native places. Plants are blooming earlier in the seasons. Animals and plants, they move and they observe at higher altitude or latitudes than previously. I mean, it's very important to understand that what is climate change and how it is occurring. We are talking about climate change, we are talking about sustainability, we are talking about conservation, but if you don't have, especially the students, if you don't have the concept of what is climate change and how we assess it, then it's not useful. I am here to talk about the impact of climate change on the water sector. So here you can see different parameters of climatic change which are showing the effect on the water sector. And according to this model predictions, the most significant and manifestation of climate change would be an acceleration of the global water cycle. आप सब students ने global water cycle पढ़ा हुआ है बहुत early education से ही. So the disturbance of the water cycle is also depicting that climate is changingly drastically and extreme hydrological events are occurring. Well, students and dear audience, potential climatic impacts जो water पे हो रहे हैं या हो सकते हैं वो है less snow cover and more rainfall, increased winter flooding time period, less snowpack cover, earlier snow melt, lower summer stream flows, increased stream and lake temperatures, increased risk to aquatic ecosystems and fish species. Same is the case with the direct observations that it amplifies the droughts. Climatic change trigger drought condition that trigger floods, water supply shortage हो सकती है, then poor water quality हो सकती है, disturbed watershed processes हैं, and so on. So climatic change increasing the risk, problems and stakes related to these all things. Earlier I have given you the definition of climatic change given by IPCC. So what is IPCC basically? IPCC in 1988 United Nations set up Interpanel on Climatic Change, IPCC, Intergovernmental Panel. Basically what it do, it gather the evidences related to climatic change that it is occurring. It assess the impacts and the future risk associated with the climatic change and providing options for adapting and mitigating to its effects. So any one of you who really want to work on sustainability related to climatic change or conservation, you should have to thoroughly see the IPCC website and its related publications and the reports. So according to the IPCC 2014 report, warming of the climate systems is unequivocal as it is now evident from the observations of increases in global average air temperature and ocean temperatures. So widespread melting of snow and ice and rising global average sea levels. Again, here you can see that both land and ocean temperatures are increasing and there has been 0.9 degrees centigrade increase in surface temperatures. और ये जो increase है, it has been total 18 observations में से 17 observations जो है ना, that has been recorded since 2001 and onward. उससे पहले सिर्फ एक या दो इस तरह की recordings थी कि climate variations आ रही हैं temperature में. But recently the temperature rate increasing and observations जो है they are more in number. So the greatest warming area जो है that is the Arctic regions. आप देख सकते हैं ये ऊपर वाला जो red color आप देख रहे हैं. So also the sea ice that is floating on the water of the seas, that is also decreasing, and scientist has observed and stated that the Arctic will be ice free by the 2030 to 2040 तक ice free हो जाएगा Arctic. आप लोगों ने पढ़े हुए हैं आर्कटिक और एंटार्क्टिक पड़े हुए हैं ना कॉन्टिनेंट्स जो हैं, दे विल नॉट बी एक्चुअली द ice continents. Same is the case with ice sheets. Antarctic ice sheets are losing 127 gigatons of ice per year, right? And also the Greenland, that is a country top north में, वो भी losing 286 gigatons per year. So this is the depictor of climatic change. Sea level rise, I already explained you. Also the polar bears. Polar bears, you have know that their habitat is the ice. Okay? So the loss of sea ice has diminished the ability of polar bears to hunt and fatten and take the weight and be healthy during the Arctic winter season. Also the seals are affected, and because they are also served for the food for the polar bears. So polar bear population is also expected to decline by 2/3 by 2050. So again, it is the loss of biodiversity and habitat. Also here you can see the mountain glacier in this picture that is in hand, and the background picture में इस वक्त ग्लेशियर वैली ग्लेशियर प्रेजेंट नहीं है, बट इन फ्रंट पिक्चर ये है, ये पास्ट की है और प्रेजेंट में वो वैली ग्लेशियर जो है वो रिट्रीट हो चुका है, मेल्ट हो चुका है और दोबारा उसकी एक्यूमुलेशन या फॉर्मेशन नहीं हो रही. Also as Professor Dr. Sher Mohammed from ICMOD, they are working and monitoring the glacial ice removal and the retreating of glaciers in Himalaya regions. So again, research has proved that Himalaya glaciers are expected to decline by 70% or more by 2100, endangering irrigation, drinking water and hydropower plant throughout Southeast Asia. Right? So ultimately, my focus of today's lecture is the water bodies. Also, ocean level rises. Coastal, what will happen when the level of the ocean is rise? तो जो coastal cities होंगे, they will also will be under water. वहाँ flooding condition हो जाएगी, तो habitat will be disturbed, other activities will be disturbed. So, as I told you earlier, that 97% of the climate scientists have the opinion that climate change is occurring. So these are some of the organizations which have this statement, and they have proved by their research work that the climate change is occurring and it is due to the anthropogenic activities. So the climatic system is basically involved in two dimensions: earth system and human systems, natural factors and the anthropogenic factors you can see on these slides. So now the main focus or the main component, impact of climate change on water sector of Pakistan, which is really serious issue. We have to take serious attention towards its solving this issue because of the increase in temperature and drastic depletion of the glaciers and melting of the glaciers. So we have properly, we should have to properly design and do the management approaches to store that. We cannot stop climate change very quickly. We can reduce its intensity, we can slow it. So we have to, some way we have to mitigate its impact, and we have to adapt it as it is. So what will be the adaptation? That if the glaciers are melting at the fastest rate, so we have to construct the dams, we have to store the water, we have to divert the ways of water, the streams, to those areas where water is not available. Ultimately, we can recharge the groundwater as well. So more recently, German Climatic Risk Index has placed Pakistan on the 5th spot on the list of countries most vulnerable to climate change in its annual report. So Pakistan is at the 5th number, or Pakistan lost 9,910 lives or ultimately other economic losses during 1999 to 2018 due to the floods caused by the climatic change. So also Pakistan's average annual temperature has increased 0.5 degrees centigrade from the last 50 years and expected to increase up to 4 to 6 degrees till the end of this century. So here you can see Pakistan, and you can see the Pakistan is the reddest maroon color, 1 to 10. So it's the top index, top rated index, that is under the highest risk of climatic change. So as you know that Pakistan is an agrarian economy and greatly dependent upon the industry for water. So and this water basically is fed by the glaciers and the lifeline of about 200 million people in Pakistan. So the source of Indus rivers is northern Himalaya, and therefore, as I told you, that the melting of glaciers can trigger a lot of catastrophic events, including the Gloves event, glacier lake outburst से जो floods होते हैं, तो ये फ्लैश फ्लडिंग होती है, क्विकली वाटर आता है और जो भी इसके रास्ते में आता है डिस्ट्रॉयड डैमेजेस. So initially there would be ample supply of water. Ultimately we would be happier कि जी fresh water, clean water available हो गया है, बड़ी agriculture. लेकिन how many years if we have not adopt proper strategies to store that water, which is ultimately going to the glaciers are going to be melt and water is coming. We have to conserve it. Well. There are some readings which you can do over the internet. The vulnerability of Pakistan's water sector. I show you here. The vulnerability of Pakistan's water sector to the impacts of climate change, identification of gaps and recommendations for action. आप इसको रीड करें, ये पूरी रिपोर्ट है, इसमें आपको फैक्ट्स एंड फिगर्स जो हैं वो काफ़ी डिटेल में यू कैन गेट द नॉलेज अबाउट इट. क्लाइमेट चेंज एंड मैनेजिंग वाटर क्राइसिस, पाकिस्तान पर्सपेक्टिव. देयर आर सम वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट रीडिंग्स विच यू कैन डू over the internet. These are freely available resources. So the solutions of climatic change and its impact is, as I told you, mitigation and adaptation. Mitigation means that strategies are designed to reduce emissions, which are कौन सी emissions हैं, जो कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड प्रोड्यूस हो रही है, मीथेन, CFCs प्रोड्यूस हो रही है, उसको रिड्यूस किया जाए and stabilize the levels of greenhouse gases already in the atmosphere. जब emissions को reduce करेंगे तो ultimately जो ग्रीन हाउस GHS हैं वो कम हो जाएगी. इसी तरह से अडेप्टेशन क्या है? एज आई टोल्ड यू, अडेप्टेशन मीन्स कि देयर आर सम एस्पेक्ट कि अगर क्लाइमेट चेंज हो गया, टेम्परेचर इंक्रीज हो गया, तो ग्लेशियर मेल्टिंग रोकी नहीं ना जा सकती, बट वी हैव टू अडेप्ट इट. हमें कैसे अडेप्ट करना है? हमें वो प्रॉपर स्ट्रेटजीज और वेज अडॉप्ट करने हैं जिससे हम लोग उस वाटर को सेव कर सकें विच इज़ कमिंग डाउन स्ट्रीम. So mitigation के एग्जाम्पल में ocean, forest and soil can be used as carbon sinks, meaning they absorb and retain carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. और reforestation की जाए ऐसे एरिया, स्टूडेंट्स ने मॉडल्स दिखाए हैं बहुत अच्छे ज़बरदस्त. आज जो आपकी बॉटनी एग्जीबिशन है उसमें आप लोगों ने बताया है एफॉरेस्टेशन, डिफॉरेस्टेशन एंड reforestation. So we have to reforestation as well, जहाँ पे कि ऑलरेडी दरख्त काटे जा चुके हैं. Fertilizing areas of the oceans to promote algae growth. Algae also absorb this carbon and protecting and restoring wetlands. So, climatic adaptation, all actions that protect and restore water and watersheds are climatic adaptive. Climate change amplifies risks we already face and have faced for many years. So, we have the knowledge now. अब आप लोगों को इतना पता चल गया कि what is the difference between weather and climate, what is climatic change and how we can notice it and how we can adapt to the situation or we can mitigate its serious and harmful future impacts. So we understand it now. So now you have to do the adaptation. So it's a good news. There are many slides related to this. You can read it. We will share it with you. So I will give you some agriculture adaptation examples. For example, adaptation agriculture sense में क्या हो सकती है that if in case of flooding in the areas where agriculture activities were taking place, तो ऐसी क्रॉप्स लगा दी जाएं जो वाटर में ग्रो करती हैं. ठीक है, प्रीवियस वैराइटीज आप देख रहे हैं लेफ्ट साइड पे, अडेप्टिव वैराइटीज इन वाटर जो है मोर रेजिस्टेंस टू द वाटर हो जाती हैं. ठीक है, सेम इज द केस विद द ड्रॉट कंडीशन. तो ड्रॉट प्रोन एरिया जो हो गया है, प्रीवियस वैराइटीज वहाँ पे ग्रो हो रही थी, यू कैन सी द लश ग्रीन एरिया जैसे वीट है वो, अब वहाँ पे ड्रॉट कंडीशन हो गई है. तो ऐसे प्लांट्स ग्रो कर लिए जाए विच आर ससेप्टेबल टू द कल्टिवेशन इन द ड्रॉट एरियाज. और प्रीवियस क्रॉप्स ड्रॉट कंडीशन में अगेन, अच्छा क्रॉपिंग हो रही थी किसी एरिया में, फ्लडिंग हो गई तो वहाँ पर क्रॉपिंग नहीं हो सकती, तो क्या बनाया जा सकता है? फिश पॉन्ड्स बनाए जा सकते हैं. दिस इज द अडेप्टेशन टू द क्लाइमेटिक चेंज. और इकोटूरिज्म स्टार्ट की जा सकती है ऐसे एरियाज में जहाँ पे फर्दर कल्टिवेशन या एग्रीकल्चर एक्टिविटीज़ नहीं हो सकती. वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, दोज एरियाज विच आर नाउ कंटिन्यूसली अंडर वाटर एंड फ्लडिंग एरियाज, दे कैन बी यूटिलाइज for the they can be moved to the mountainous or the uplands. Residents वहाँ पे कर दी जाए. थैंक यू वेरी मच. हाँ, थोड़ा सा मैं आपको बताना चाहूँगी यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ द पंजाब सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट के हवाले से क्या कर रहे हैं. वी हैव 3 फंक्शनिंग डिपार्टमेंट्स ओवर हियर. सेंटर फॉर इंटीग्रेटेड माउंटेन रिसर्च वेयर आई एम वर्किंग एज ए एसोसिएट प्रोफेसर and we are offering BS disaster management, MPhil and PhD in Geo-environmental conservation and sustainable development, and we have strength of like 200 students there. We have PhD students that are 20-25, and MPhil students that their number is 50 students, and all these students are working on the sustainable development issues. And also recently, with the funding from HEC, Department of Space Science has established remote sensing GIS climatic research lab, and which is offering free of cost trainings, as well as they are offering the scholarships for the scientists. They are involving the research scientists, associates, students level, also providing the scholarships to the PhD and MPhil level students. And also one more department is established, that is Center for Research on Sustainable Development Goals. Punjab University में center ही develop कर दिया गया है, which initially will do research on sustainable development goals, and later on we will convert to the courses, academic courses related to sustainable development goals. Thank you very much. Any question they can ask me. Thank you.
हाँ, थैंक यू वेरी मच मैडम। आपने साइंटिफिक एविडेंस से प्रूव कर दिया कि क्लाइमेट ग्लेशियर भी मेल्ट हो रहे हैं, सी लेवल भी राइज हो रहा है, ठीक है। ग्लोबल वार्मिंग, क्लाइमेट चेंज जो मेन ड्राइवर, मेन काज है इसका, वो ग्रीन हाउस गैसेस की एमिशन है। और ग्रीन हाउस गैसेस की एमिशन सबसे ज़्यादा कहाँ से होती है? एनर्जी प्रोडक्शन फ्राम द फॉसल फ्यूल। तो अगर हम सिर्फ एक यही वेरिएबल चेंज कर लें, अगर वर्ल्ड इस पे आ जाए कि जो एनर्जी प्रोडक्शन फ्राम फॉसल फ्यूल से कन्वर्ट कर ले टू क्लीन एनर्जी लाइक सोलर एंड हाइड्रो, तो दिस प्रॉब्लम कैन बी टैकल टू ग्रेट एक्सटेंट। In this regard, we have a very good presentation from Dr. Imran Sharif, Climate Change and Clean Energy in Pakistan. Sir.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I am thankful to Dr. Abdul Rashid to call me to be here among the distinguished panelists, guest speakers, and my dear students. So I'm thankful to everyone, and really it's a very great moment for all of us to share our views and comments on climate change and clean energy, and how to relate this theme with the sustainable development goals. I'm really privileged and honored to be here among the learned professors and all my dear students. Thank you very much. Already, I think I have been conveyed that we are already late, and I will just only give you a presentation on some of the important aspects of climate change and clean energy. So basically, the much discussion has been done on this forum on the climate change. What are the reasons how we are becoming the victim of this climate change, and what are the sources of climate change? What is the concept of climate change? So I will directly come to, might be my presentation would be some informative for the students, but the learned professors and the distinguished guests who are sitting on the first two lines and on the stage, they already know that about what I'm talking about here, but some of aspects would be little bit informative for the students who are sitting behind here. The climate change, basically, if the students who belong to the social sciences and the economics, they know that. So what is the difference between renewable energy and the non-renewable energy? And what is the concept of renewable energy, and what are the sources of renewable energy that are told the solution of the climate change? So how we are becoming the victim of the climate change and where we have to go. So there are many sources of the renewable energy because our economy is reliable on the non-renewable energy sources, and we have to convert and we have to shift from the non-renewable to the renewable energy sources. And if we look at all that, there are various sources. And you know that in Pakistan, we are placing our emphasis, and previous governments have emphasized on some of the sources of the renewable energy. And the solar energy is one of them. But that is little bit more expensive. But on the other side, so we will discuss here some of other resources that are the part of the renewable energy sources. So this one, wind energy, is one of them. I'm just showing here some of pictures because of shortage of time. And so this is one of the most cheapest way of getting the energy in Pakistan, where the present government and the CPAC projects are working on that source of energy. That is really a good solution for the clean energy. This is one of the richest source of the clean energy. So these are the other sources of the clean energy. If we give the summary of all the renewable energy sources, so you can look at here some of the advantages and disadvantages of all the sources type of energy, and that are helpful to understand which one is the more expensive, which one is the less expensive. And I have already told you that the hydro energy sources are basically the most cheapest energy source, and everyone knows about it. So as far as sustainable goals are concerned, so the goal 7 is directly concerned with this climate change and clean energy. So that ensures the access to affordable, reliable, sustainable and modern energy for all. And that goal of energy is important for achieving the sustainable goals. So now I will let you know about what the government of Pakistan, and in Pakistan, what is the climate data and what is the profile and sources of information. So if we look at here, few of the things, that CO2 emissions per capita are low, but with the passage of time it is increasing, and due to many reasons. So if we look at here, so in Pakistan it is the lowest per capita CO2 emissions that can be observed here as compared to the South Asian countries and lower middle income countries. And so as far as world is concerned, 4.99 metric tons per capita is for the world. So, but as compared to all other economies, so Pakistan is lowest here. But in fact, that as Abid was telling us, that Pakistan is the 5th. Some people say that, and some of the organizations are telling us that Pakistan coming at number 8. But anyhow, so due to, but eventually we are also coming towards the highest rate of CO2 emissions in the future, in the coming few years, because of many deforestation and urbanization and some of other contemporary issues that are rising, the issue of climate change. So if we look at here, there are high vulnerability to the climate change impacts, and 8th most climate affected country of the world is Pakistan, as per this report of 2020. And similarly, so the data that is about the deaths that are related to the indoor and outdoor air pollution alone in 2019. So landfill gas generation, and the children who are also becoming the victim of this climate change. And you know that the diarrhea, so the health issues are rising day by day in Pakistan due to this climate change. So one of the most affected area is the agriculture sector. So my colleagues and friends are here that who have emphasized on all these issues related to the climate change in Pakistan, and it affects vulnerable effects in Pakistan that have been observed here. And similarly, this is what the Sustainable Development Goal 7. So there are some targets that have been set for the future. by 2030, by 2030, by 2030, but there are some improvements. But in fact, that we have to work on all these indicators, and we have to look closely observed in Pakistan. So how we can overcome this issue and how we can reduce this issue. That is, we are doing ourselves and without any realization that what will happen in the future. So this is what the SDG 7 target status of Pakistan and other developing countries. If you look at here, so the rural urban electricity access rate in 2019. So you can see here that as far as rural area is concerned, we are having a very lowest access rate in Pakistan as far as rural electricity access rate is concerned. That is why now the sum of projects in CPAC are now running in Pakistan due to overcome the energy shortage and to achieve the cheap energy resources, to get the cheap energy resources. So these tables are just to make the comparison of Pakistan with the other countries, that where we stand and how we can improve our energy sources and clean energy resources. And one another, that how what is the share in the total final energy consumption in Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, China, and Iran. So you can look at here that in 2019 and 2000 in previous years, what was the status regarding the share in the total final energy consumption. And as far as SDG 7 is concerned, so what is the international financial flows for the support of the clean energy? So how much income, how much money is coming from other countries to Pakistan to overcome and to address these issues? And that is given in US $1 million. You can see here that some of the projects that are running due to the CPAC in Pakistan, that is why in 2019 we are getting a almost $100 US million as compared to India. So we are in a better position. But you can look over here that you look at here the Bangladesh and China. So these two countries are getting much contribution from international commitments regarding the clean energy and climate change. So as far as Pakistan's update nationally determined contributions, so you can look at that the government of Pakistan has also taken some steps towards the climate change and the clean energy. So these are the steps that have been that are being initiated in Pakistan, and the high priority actions are here about that by 2020-30. So electric vehicles will be increased by 30%. So where we are now coming to address the renewable energy, that is by 2030 we will convert our from non-renewable to renewable energy by 60% by the 2030. So similarly, so adaptation. So my another colleague was telling about the adaptation, that how we can address the issues about the climate change. So these are the some of achievements regarding the Sustainable Development Goal 7, and where different projects have been initiated in Pakistan to address this climate change and clean energy.
Okay, sir. Dr. Mohkam will elaborate impact of varying temperatures on growth of maize under semi-arid environment.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I am Dr. Mohkam Ahmad. Basically, I am agronomist and working on climate change from the last 10 years. I am trying to optimize nutrient requirements of the plants, as with the change of temperature, the plant water and other nutrient requirement is changing. Here is outline of my presentation. Climatic condition significantly affect maize productivity among abiotic factor. Temperature is an important factor which is predominantly affects maize production during early growth stages. Therefore, agricultural productivity strongly depend upon the climatic condition. This is a historical temperature of the world, approximately 200-year historical temperature. If we see during early 100 year approximately, there is no significant increase in temperature. After 1975, industrial revolution. After industrial revolution, the increase in temperature is also happened in our environment. The basic reason behind this is our industry and combustion engine. Anthropogenic activity are causing the gradual change in global climate, which affects on crop production and nutrient use efficiency. Therefore, experiments are conducted to explore the effect of varying temperature on maize growth. This study provides an insight to crop growth response to changing climate. The study objective was to determine the temperature effects on growth of the maize hybrid. We have conducted a part experiment in greenhouse gas and greenhouse. We use 10 maize hybrid locally available in Pakistan market in southern Punjab. And we study the three temperature. First one, the normal open air temperature. The second one temperature was the 1 degree higher temperature than normal approximately. The third temperature was
जो डाइवर्सिफाइड प्रेजेंटेशन थी, इन प्रेजेंटेशन ने आपको एजुकेट किया है, आपकी अंडरस्टैंडिंग इंक्रीज हुई है अबाउट डिफरेंट आस्पेक्ट ऑफ सस्टेनेबिलिटी. नाउ द फोरम इज ओपन फॉर क्वेश्चंस. एनी क्वेश्चन सर? माइक, यूज द माइक. माइक दे दें. हाँ हाँ, यस. प्रेजेंटेशन, हाँ जी सर. मोहम्मद जी. Make two announcements. First is कि आफ्टर दिस लास्ट हमारा ट्रिप पे गेस्ट के लिए अरेंज किया हुआ है, डॉक्टर अब्दुल्ला उसको मॉडरेट करेंगे. सेकंड ये कि गेस्ट के लिए 8 बजे नॉर्मल डिनर के साथ कल्चरल शो है, तो बी रेडी फॉर दैट सर.
बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम. I am going to start my presentation. I am Dr. Mohammed Mubin and I represent Comstats University Islamabad Mehadi campus. So the topic of my presentation is cropping pattern and moisture stress index probing in southern Punjab by using techniques of remote sensing and GIS. So I would like to give some brief about the remote sensing for the students who are sitting here. Remote sensing is an important technique that detects data about the objects placed remotely without being in contact with that object. So we can see a lot of things, we can get a lot of information through satellites about Earth features. So this is the GIS and how it works. These are some components of GIS. The heart of these components is software. So long period observation of remote sensing vegetation dynamics have got an increasing interest in the study of Earth. Remote sensing and GIS technology have ability to obtain information about land use, land cover, LULC, and crop production. So cropping system study is useful to understand the overall sustainability of the agriculture system. The topic of our consortium is Climate Change, Sustainability and Conservation. So it is important that we get information about the sustainability of the suitability of the agriculture system. So capturing the chain dynamics of cropping system through satellites, especially spatial and temporal aspects, is of utmost importance in overall planning and management of natural resources. Remote sensing based biophysical approach has the potential for efficiently estimating soil moisture content over large areas. So here is our study area in which we conducted our study. So you can see we have selected the Multan division, which is one of the important district of division of southern Punjab. So Khanewal, Multan, Lodra and Bihar district were selected for this study. So these are some glimpses of survey or ground truth points which were taken by my students. So here is the flow chart. How did we conduct our study and what processing was done in our study? So first of all, we acquired data through Landsat 8 satellite. Then we conducted layer stacking, mosaicing and subsetting on some GIS softwares like EarDAS Imagine and ArcGIS. And then we, based on the ground truth point, we conducted the supervised classification, and then we draw the cropping pattern maps. So as far as our moisture stress index is concerned, so it was calculated for each of the satellite images using the formula MSI is equal to mid infrared over near infrared. So these are the bands of band used in the satellite images. So we also conducted some surveys. So we see that what was the perception of farmers about climate change. We can see that many farmers, about 76% farmers, indicated that the climate change is happening, and 70% observed that the climate change is affecting the agriculture. Similarly, we had some information from the farmer side that about 54% rainfall is increasing. 54% of the farmers were of the view that the rainfall is increasing in the area. And we can see that some farmers say that climate change problem can be mitigated. And some were of the view that hybrid cultivars had the ability to sustain the agriculture under changing climate. So as far as the cropping system study was concerned, we can see that from these graphs, for the Rabi season 2013, the wheat crop was grown on more than 64% of area for the consumption of household needs and as well as for the commercial purpose. For the Rabi season 2016, the percentage of land distribution for the wheat crop decreased and it was about 62%. And for Rabi season 2019, the wheat crop was cultivated over the 61.5% area. That is, it increased further, it decreased further. So similarly, the sugarcane area covered the 4.8% of the area. It is worth observing that during the last 6 to 7 years, some wheat and sugarcane area transformed to fodder, cash crop, maize and other valuable vegetable crops. So this was the picture for Rabi season. As far as the Kharif season is concerned, during Kharif cropping system, cropping pattern 2013, the cotton crop was cultivated on 50.7% of the land and rice covered more than 12% of the farm area. Whereas in 2016, the cotton crop was cultivated on 46.1% that is reduced about 4%, while the rice crop was rice area was similar to the 2013 figure. As far as the 2019 is concerned, the cotton crop further reduced to 40.3%. So while rice increased a bit and it grew on area of 14.3% land. So in this season as well, in Kharif season as well, the cultivation and production of the maize crop increased due to an increase in area shown as good economic returns. So maize crop took more area because the farmers had the encouragement of good economic returns. So these are our images in which images of the study area. These images or these maps were acquired after pre-processing of the Landsat images. So you can see some changes in the crop area over the period of 2013 to 2019. So here is some graph. Most of these figures I have already explained. As far as the moisture stress index is concerned, in 2013 the normal MSI value was 0.014%, and the MSI high value was 4.40. So in 2019 the MSI value was 0.027 and the MSI high value was 4.73. So we can conclude from this analysis that we have some moisture stress, and this stress is increasing due to climate change. So these are some results of the moisture stress index you can see from these figures. So I come to the conclusion now. The growth of crops in these regions highly dependent on the groundwater, canal water, and climatic and socio-economic conditions of the farmers. Being an agriculture country, Pakistan already faces the problem of water scarcity due to climate change. So cropping pattern maps, which we have used in our study, can highlight the cropping practice changing over the time and can help us in managing our natural resources. Thank you very much. Any question? Thank you.
Learned fellows from different universities who have come up here, and especially I had a chance to meet my teacher, Dr. Shakil Ahmed, and other fellows. I was thinking of to move with the idea that this consortium will lead, and the first or the visionary step could be establishment of automated weather network. Automated weather network is a way that the different people, different weather stations, which are a source of data at different places in different universities, they need to be interconnected for an integrated approach and for getting a more reliable weather information and in real time. I have been working with the Washington State University's Agricultural Weather Network Program under the Fulbright Fellowship Program. And there in the state of Washington, there are about 170 different weather stations which are installed, and all of these are interconnected, and their server or the data is received at one place. That was Washington State University is managing all of those. And there the farmers are so rich that they can afford to have their own independent weather station. And those weather stations not only can give the site-specific information for them, but also they are giving, they are generating data for other people who could be in the surrounding. And various farmer organizations, they were also supporting those weather stations. So in this way, university is giving the service and farmers are installing their own automated weather stations. and their linkage is very important, that how these people are getting information which is more reliable, which is more useful, especially the grave point yards in the Washington state. Those were the beneficiaries of this automated weather stations network, and 170 automated weather stations. All the information generated through the sensors installed on those automated weather stations, those are generated every 5 seconds, and they are averaged after 15 seconds for three readings, and those three readings they are relayed to Washington State University's server. And there one climatologist is there, which is who is generating the forecast, which is also supported by the satellite data. So satellite data is also supporting, and the point-based weather stations, which are also supporting those decision support, and their prediction is very much reliable. And on the basis of on hourly basis, they are telling you that in today afternoon, like in 6 a.m. there will be rainfall, at 7 a.m. there will be snowfall or whatsoever. So that is too much precise. So this kind of precise information is the need of us to avoid risk. For disaster risk management, we need to have an integrated solution to combine all the weather stations. In morning today, we have Pakistan Meteorological Department's Director General Dr. Sahib Zad Sahab, and he has offered this that their data services are available. But according to my information, which I taken from the PMD website, Mehkama Mausam Yaad ke jo websites, that all the districts of Punjab, they don't even have automated weather stations, or even the manual system is also not there. In 36 districts of Punjab, there are about 28 weather stations. So that means there are still 8 weather stations are missing in different districts or the new districts of Punjab. So this missing link can be connected further, and the information that we collect from one weather station, usually that is for 25-kilometer radius, that is valid. So this consortium can help and can launch its first prototype project for different universities and for different cities, that we can integrate our weather stations. Most of the universities, they have already installed, but they are not interconnected. So we can interconnect those weather stations, and then we can generate real-time forecast with that. So this is the idea, and I hope that Dr. Wajid will take initiative to work on that, and very soon we will have Punjab's automated weather network functioning in the near future. Thank you very much.
Sir, thank you very much, sir. And sir, एक तो फिर सर को शील्ड के लिए